Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Brian Moore, and today we're doing a very interesting study, one of sociology. You feel me? We will be discussing today how race, the concept of crime, and how the media warps the world's perception. We'll be dealing with different things such as influence on identity and behavior in its culture, the social institutions that shape society, and social stratification and its inequality. So let's hop on into it. See, race is a social construct, not based on actual biological reality, but rather the perceived physical traits. It was created about the 16th, 17th century, predominantly used to divide the world up. Before, people identified one another by tribes, nation, cultural practices, social status, and or by families. Using the label theory to better understand what has happened to us as a people, especially in America, you must go back to our beginning. From the beginning of this country, those who were in charge made a plan that was set up on using and destroying the inhabitants of America, and one was through erasing a person's self. Now, when I say self, what I mean by is this distinct self-identity, which does include beliefs, thoughts, feelings about themselves and others. You can see this happening when people from other countries come to live in America and they become Americanized. After destroying either the Native Americans of this land or by destroying their identity through forced assimilation, the early European Americans then gave natives who refused to assimilate labels. Native Americans were defined as savages and uncivilized, while American Europeans were labeled as sophisticated and elegant. Race is a label that was meant to erase individuality of people and create stereotypes. This is woven into the American foundation, though one must ask, what does it mean to be white? What does it mean to be black? What does it mean to be Asian? What does it mean to be Hispanic? What does it mean to be Native? You'll find that you cannot answer it because it doesn't exist. After all the differences we have, either ethnically, religiously, or socially, there are so many other factors to include when speaking about individuals. There are many people within race groups who are alienated because they don't fit the label of what it means to be a part of said racial group. Each racial group has a deviant. There are subcultures within racial groups that are not affiliated with the larger groups, and countercultures will go against what a race group may or may not stand for. The list goes on and on, but if you have noticed that people who are included in the concept of race has been broken up and broken down. It gives an internal struggle between self and social norms. Prejudice, biases, lies, and division have only spread amongst the public. Worst of all, it erases everyone's identity for a label. Like stated before, labels carry weight with them, which directly influence our next topic, which is about crime. You see, crime by definition is a behavior that violates official law and is punishable by formal sanctions. Though, when you hear the word crime, you must ask yourself, what comes to mind, right? Now, you may answer anything illegal / against the law, right? I mean, we always say that. But my next question would be, what makes a certain thing illegal and others not? Is it that it's harmful to you or others? The usage of marijuana is illegal federally, but out of all drugs, it is considered the least of all that are dangerous. You are more likely to suffer and die from alcohol and or tobacco use, yet those two are legal. I am in no way advocating for marijuana usage and using it for an example. You feel me? What is even stranger than that is that almost half the states in America say weed should be legal, and it has been decriminalized, which goes against federal law. You can be arrested federally, but not state-wise if you're caught with weed. So the law here in America is ever-changing and it's confusing. No surprise, right? Though, you may see the difference between the different types of crimes, like violent crimes and non-violent crimes, street crimes, victimless crimes, hate crimes, and corporate crimes. So, Let's talk about theft, right? If someone was to steal money from you, they should be arrested and go to jail, right? You would agree so. If someone robs a bank, right? Don't have to be armed robbery, but just robbing a bank. Lots of money, you feel me? They should be arrested and go to prison, right? So what about a corporation stealing millions, maybe billions of dollars from people? Don't you think that those corporations should be shut down, and those people, those CEO or CEOs, should be arrested and never have a business ever again, right? Let me tell you this, right? But in the third scenario, justice is not served. Big businesses, banks, and the government steals hundreds of billions of dollars from the American people, yet they are not arrested or convicted because the law is in favor of certain people, though they are not viewed as criminals. So, this constitutes to a criminal. Who comes to mind as a criminal? Once upon a time, slavery was illegal. Slavery was legal and protected by the law. And the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793 and 1850 said that if anyone is caught helping a slave escape, they should be fined and or arrested or jailed. Would you consider those people criminals? The law would. But would you consider those people criminals? Or what about protesting about injustices like during the Civil Rights Movement, where all those people are arrested for protesting criminals? By law, they were criminals. They had a criminal record. But would you say those people are criminals? The theory that best help us understand crime and criminality in America is functionalism. What most people are unaware of, or maybe are too afraid to say, is that America's foundation values corruption. From the early stages of this country until now, this country favors the corrupt. You can see that within its justice system and the idea of crime here. Most persons within Congress make a salary of $174,000 a year. And that's with benefits and any business they have outside of being a politician. But the country as a whole has a national debt of $36.7 trillion, even though we pay trillions in taxes. Somehow big businesses and the wealthy can get tax breaks or cuts, but the average American avoiding paying their taxes will be arrested for tax evasion. Man, oh man. Another example would be the police and the justice system. I was once told by a family member that the police force, but something about the police force, right? They said to me, America got rid of all the wild games during the early 1800s and just made a really big one, which is the police department. That statement turns out to be true. Many police officers have done many illegal things such as brutality towards people, wrongful arrests, tampering with evidence and witnesses, violating civil rights, and things of that nature. However, we are led to believe that a certain group of people are more prone to crime, such as blacks. For a long time, it has been said that blacks make up 30% of the population and commit 50% of the crime. With a little research, right, and common knowledge about American history with the black population, you can find out that this statement is proven to be false. Yes, indeed, blacks do make up about 30% of the population, but it is false that they commit 50% of the crime. According to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, whites make up almost 58% of the prison population, while blacks only make up 39%. Furthermore, according to a study by Pennsylvania Capital Star, blacks are 53% more likely to be convicted wrongly of crimes than other races. Blacks are 55% more likely to be wrongly convicted of murder, 69% more likely to be wrongly convicted of drug crimes, and 64% more likely to be wrongly convicted for robbery. I see many people either choose to ignore or do not know that John D. Ehrlichman, a White House counsel and assistant to the President of Domestic Affairs under President Richard Nixon, said this in an interview in 1994 about the war on drugs. Are ready for this? And I quote, "The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. Do you understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to either be against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and the blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we can disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know that we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. This leads us to our next point, which is the media. The media. Most people who watch news platforms expect the place to be an unbiased information and run by individuals who want to spread the truth about different topics. Now, in more recent years, the overall trust for media has declined greatly. Whether you listen to the radio, podcasts, Fox News, the newspaper, 90% of the media in America is controlled by 6 companies. Those 6 companies are AT&T, Sony, Comcast, Disney, News Corporation, and Paramount. Those 6 corporations work with 4 companies to distribute the information they send out. And those 4 are Google, Meta, TikTok, and X or Twitter. You know, Elon Musk wanted to change the name for whatever reason, but different conversation for a different day. But that means there's 10 companies that control 90% of what you see, hear, and they influence what you think, feel, and do. At the very least, we could say that most of what you see is propaganda and distractions. Monopolies are illegal in the United States, but oligopolies are not. Now, they are against the law and anti-competitive behavior, but if government just makes it harder to have your own business and compete, then what? I'm sure you can imagine that most American people have or are developing a false consciousness, and that is true. False consciousness is a condition where a set of beliefs, ideas, or ideologies of a person or persons is not in his or her best interest. In the Marxist theory, it says a way of thinking that prevents a person from perceiving the true nature of their social and economic situation. You can see the American media for a very long time has used tactics of fear and have created a culture of fear among the people for centuries. It has gone from the British to the Native Americans, from the free blacks to immigrants, from the Germans to the Russians, from nuclear war to the war on drugs, from different political parties to the rich versus the poor, from country versus country to individual versus individual. But you always miss who your true enemy is. With the rise of misinformation and disinformation, it has become incredibly difficult to navigate what is true and what is not true, because what is stopping those larger corporations from lying to the public? What's stopping them from saying that what's actually the truth is just false news? Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, the reason why I bring all this information up is because the world lacks truth. The world is built on lies. People's realities are built on lies. And you can see the result of it because this country, many countries in the world, are falling apart, and they're falling apart very quickly. For years, for centuries, we have been divided amongst each other, going according to someone's plan. We're fighting over the miscellaneous while they're doing what they want to do. They're going to bed perfectly fine while we have people still struggling out here. You see, personally, this is what I believe, right? I believe every last human being on the face of the earth that have existed, that is existing, and will exist, is created in the image of God. That means you have a unique purpose of being down here. You're not made by accident. Was no, whoops, there you go. God had a purpose for you back in eternity. But we have an enemy that sees the same thing. And that person, those persons, seek to use us as much as they can to aid in their plan, which is the destruction of all mankind, which is to kill who you are and instill everything that God has for you. Again, I bring this up because it's time to wake up. It's time to do what we need to do and come together. Because all this other stuff, people are talking about vanity. None of this stuff matters. What do I care what celebrities are doing? What do I care about the next movie that's going to come out? What do I care about having 6 figures? Is that going to bring me closer to who I am? Is that going to set me free mentally? Is that going to allow me to be able to enjoy this beautiful creation that God has created?
But most importantly, would it allow you to love your neighbor? Will any of that allow you to love your neighbor, your fellow human being? I beg to differ. Choose now what side you will choose, whether the truth or vanity, because tomorrow's not promised. Do with this information as you will.